We are recording. Looks good. Take these off so they don't make noise. Cool. Alrighty. I'm not prepped, so.
Hey everybody, so happy to be with you again. This crazy person you've seen on C-Suite Unfiltered before, but he is one of my cohorts.
Yes.
I've been teased about saying that Nick was my cohort, and I stand by my own wrong opinion that one person can be my cohort, and I'm outvoted.
Okay. Fair enough.
So I asked Lee to come on today to talk about transitions, and he's very busy, and I appreciate him taking the time.
Of course.
But there's a few things I want to cover with him that might be helpful to some of you business owners right now in the phase that you're in, and then the phases that probably you've been in, and what transitions you might have going forward.
Yeah, there's a lot of transitions in life.
No kidding, and you've had a few. So
Yep.
First of all, can you tell me a little bit about your background, your family, your schooling, kind of what makes up the person that you are?
Yeah, so in terms of like family and background and schooling, and growing up, I had two parents that are still together. Been married, man, probably coming up on 40 something. I don't know. I should probably get the number right. 40 plus years of marriage. They were high school sweethearts. Married at 18. My dad was in the Navy, so I was raised by kind of a military father, blue collar father, if you will. He went straight from the Navy into like manufacturing jobs, and then was a lifer at an oil refinery. So. Very old school, pull yourself up by your bootstraps type of childhood, if you will. I had three older sisters, so I was the baby. So I had one mom and then three pseudo moms, if you will.
Yes, no kidding.
And that was great. I love it. I'm still very close with all my family, my sisters and my parents. And that's kind of the family side of it, very close knit. And then schooling, I just did regular public school, and then secondary school or college. I didn't see myself being like a 4-year degree person. It's not really what I wanted to do. I didn't really feel like I wanted to, do a 4-year program that necessarily had a direct line to the workforce that I thought was valuable. I didn't really want to do like engineering or anything technical or business. I thought about business, but I was like, it seems kind of generic.
Yes.
And I don't know what I want to do in business, but I feel like maybe one day I'd like to work, either be an entrepreneur or work in a business. My plan out of high school was to go to a military academy. So growing up as with a military father, obviously we kind of idolized the military and held it in high regard. Both my grandfathers served in World War II, so it seemed like an obvious choice. At 18, I would applied. I had an appointment from a state senator. I was very close to the goal line. I don't know if you know all this.
No.
I was very close to the goal line, and I actually had the physical application to one of the military academies, and I just got back a no. With no explanation.
No way.
I had crossed every box, every I had been dotted, every T had been crossed, and they just gave me back a no. No, don't know why. I never reapplied. Maybe a regret, not if I'm going down that road, but maybe I should have reapplied. Who knows? But now I'm here, and because I didn't go to military school, I didn't know what I was going to do. Really started to heavily get involved with my church, volunteering there. One of my pastors spurred me to maybe go to a seminary or go to a Christian school. Ended up going to a small school in Chicago called Moody Bible Institute, and I got a degree in theology. And that's also where I met my wife. So
wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
That was a lot. Sorry.
No, that's exactly what we wanted to start that. So, when you came to Augusta, how did you come to Augusta, and did you have any previous experience? So this is a transition from his Bible college, which he actually finished at Augusta. But tell us about coming to Augusta and if you had previous lawn care experience.
Yeah, so no lawn care experience in the professional sense of traveling out to customers' properties or anything like that. I did have kind of pseudo experience. I was a park ranger at a private campground, private RV campground. So I was doing some of the maintenance tasks, some of the mowing, some of the trimming, but then also was a general handyman, fixing toilets, fixing broken siding on buildings, things of that nature. So a little bit of just kind of handyman work, but no official lawn care, landscaping, technical skills.
Okay.
Yeah.
And wow. How did you get hired then?
It was a summer job, or for Augusta.
Yeah.
I don't know how I got hired to be a park ranger, other than I could maybe just fit the bill. I looked like someone who could do, handyman type work. And with Augusta, I vividly remember coming to meet you for the first time. So that summer job was coming to an end, and I was like, well, this company's literally right down the street, and I don't mind the drive to where I work. So I thought, yeah, I'll go apply to this company right down the street. I've seen their trucks. That's all I knew. Like, I saw your trucks and I was like, well, it seems like an easy transition. And it's right next to where I currently work. And I walked in the office one day and I just handed you my resume. I said, hey, not sure if you're hiring, and I'd love an opportunity to potentially work here. And you could tell the story of how I got hired. That's all I specifically remember.
It was actually in the parking lot, and I remember exactly where we were both standing.
Yeah.
And you told me a little bit about yourself, and it was October. We were not hiring.
Yeah.
And so after you left, I don't know if I said I'd be in touch with you, but I told Mike this is one that I think if we don't take, we'll regret it, even if it's October. So we took Lee. We obviously saw something special in him.
Thank you.
And I believe that it doesn't matter if somebody has experience, if they have the right attitude and things, that you can make them successful if they're willing. So the schooling industry has helped you how in this one? Because a lot of people would say, oh, I went to school, but it hasn't helped me at all. Do you think it has?
Yeah, definitely, 100%. Especially with my obviously background, I did go to a Christian school that a lot of my friends that were there were in programs to literally become pastors, become psychologists, become human resources type folks that need to do a lot of public speaking or meetings and sit downs. So a lot of my classes did require oral presentations or very well thought out dissertations and papers. So 100% that skill of formulating opinions, formulating arguments, as well as public speaking, you are going to use that in any job. Any job you have, you'll have to make certain points or help your manager, or if you are the manager or owner, you will have to help others understand your decision, which means you need to articulate your position very clearly. So even though I may not be using my theology degree or talking to people every day about soteriology or eschatology or whatever, I'm still using the skills of communication, defending my points, and making people feel heard and understood and supported.
One of my most fun things
Yes.
about doing with Lee is to pick some theological topic or philosophy topic and asking him questions and debating him on it to see where he stands on things, and then giving some pushback. It's one of my favorite things. And yes, his schooling has helped us. I remember the first day we were all practicing phone training. I don't know if you remember this.
Yes, I do.
And we would have one person go out of the office, and then we would be calling back and forth. And the day we heard Lee, didn't know anything about that he was a speaker or anything. He was just helping us practice. And when he spoke, it was so articulated, so perfectly handled the phone call. We were all just like, wow, who are you? It was so great.
Thank you.
So we knew we had a great speaker on our hands. So each role you've had, how is the timeline been for that? Like where you started, how long you were in the field, and then what did you do next up till now?
Yeah, so I have kind of a running joke with Mike that every year I get a new job title, a new position, a new compensation agreement, whatever you want to label it. And it's a running joke, but it's actually the truth. So my first year at Augusta, I was just your general laborer. I was a field crew, technician, whatever you want to call it, and just worked in the field. You and Mike would assign the jobs, I'd show up, I'd go get them done, whether it was mowing, projects, cleanups, you name it. And then after that kind of first year, Mike and you saw something in my work ethic and the quality of my work that you started kind of moving me to what we would call a project manager role. And that's where I was on multi-day projects. At the time, we were still doing paver patios, hardscaping, excavation work, and I was able to head up a lot of those projects. For most of my summers, I was never mowing. I never touched a mower. I was just doing big multi-day projects, typically minimum of $3,000 to $4,000 up to 20 plus. After that, Mike started moving into considering franchising and put you in the position to run his original location. And I was then given the sales role or the estimator position. Did that for about a year. Then moved into your role as you moved in to support Mike with franchising. So I ran the Bellingham shop, and then I had an estimator named Marcus, who's awesome. And then after that, I moved into coaching and sales for the franchise. I've been doing coaching and sales for the last 2.5 years, and now I've moved into a solely sales position.
Okay, and most people would ask you, those are transitions, those are a lot of transitions really fast. And they're gonna wonder, there's always these layering where they just keep kind of folding into the next one.
Mm-hmm.
And do you feel that that was difficult for you, or did it just seem like the next step?
For me, it wasn't difficult. I've always said that one of my biggest strengths, and this is something that you talk about with the owners inside of Augusta, is like knowing your strengths, also knowing your weaknesses. One of my strengths is adaptability. If you put me in any situation, I can figure it out with pretty good confidence. Like I might screw something up, but I have the confidence to figure it out and roll with it. I like to try to be a little bit of a chameleon, right? I'll learn through osmosis and I'll grab like a piece from you, a piece from Mike, a piece from somebody else on YouTube that I heard, Alex Ramosi, and then I'll just kind of blend that together to fit whatever that new role is. I think that there's stress in terms of I'm being put in these positions, so I have to make sure things are done right, but I have confidence in my skills to figure it out as I go.
Yeah, have you felt the need to build your skills as you've gone along, and in all these different transitions, how has that changed? How you force yourself to learn, if you did at all? Or do you think that made you stand out and move you into those positions?
I think a lot of my skill building has been through observation. And I think that's one of the biggest factors that people don't account for when trying to build their own skill set, is just observation. A lot of times when we're working, we're focused on our work, and we don't often look up and see what other people are doing. And I have another joke that I say is no one listens to more Mike Andy's content than me, than the people that edit it. Because they have to listen to it over and over and over and over to make sure the edit's right. Other than them, I listen to the most, I can guarantee it. And that's just through observation. Even before his YouTube channel was big, when I first got hired, he had maybe 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. And I love watching every video, every team meeting he was in. Like I was there, or if I wasn't at work, I would listen to the recording of the team meeting. Any suggested comment you or Mike recommended, I made sure I put it on a list and listened to it, whether it was a YouTube video, a book, you name it. And then I just watched how you and Mike operate. Any time I walked in the office, if you were on the phone call with a customer, I would listen. I wouldn't just sit there and twiddle my thumbs or look at my phone. I was like, okay, she's on the phone with an upset customer. I can learn from this. So I just sit and listen to you. When Mike first started training me on sales, I would diligently watch him do sales and take notes. And sometimes I literally recorded him doing sales on my phone so I could listen to it later. I think that was the biggest thing for me, was just observing people that are doing better than me and trying to replicate what they were doing. And beyond that, it's the Audible books and looking to YouTube University to just pick up skills that you can supplement.
Yeah, great answer. I love that. So all of us, when we move from transition to transition, our families transition with us. They're not always happy with what they see and the changes. But what point did your wife come into the picture, and how has she transitioned with you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my wife, yes, shout out Sarah. She is definitely not to beat a dead horse in terms of analogies, but my rock. She is always there for me, always supportive, like the best teammate I could ever have. And she's been with me through every transition. So we were first kind of starting to date a little bit more officially, exclusively seeing each other when I got hired at Augusta. So it was still very new with her, it was very new with Augusta. And she has seen me from the moment I got hired to now being, on the leadership team of this company that, thankfully and by the grace of God has 150 locations. So she's seen every transition. And there have been transitions where she has, supported and been very much a cheerleader. And there have been transitions where she has expressed frustrations or said, are you giving too much? Are you trying too hard? Like, where is the balance? One of those biggest transitions was from estimator to office manager of Mike's original location.
That's a lot.
There is a weight that you feel taking over a Mike Andy's
kidding.
business. When he says, here are the keys, kid, drive, there is a weight that you feel. And so you are going to put in the extra effort. You are going to work the long hours. You are going to mull over profit and loss statements and figure out where you can save pennies and where you can increase dollars. And that was a hard transition to get into a specific example of taking on that office manager role because at the time I became office manager, I was newly married. So now my wife and I are living together, we're committed to each other, we're trying to figure out life together, and I just took on the biggest responsibility at my career at the time.
Wow.
And that was hard. That was a hard transition.
Yeah, they say the hardest year is the first year you're married. So
yes.
Add that on to being married to Augusta in that role for the first time. That's a lot. that's addressing your wife, with which thankfully she was supportive and has
Yes.
been supportive
Yes.
of you. But family,
Mm-hmm.
they can sometimes think, oh, you're trying to be something you're not, or I hate the way this is going, I hate how this has changed you.
Mm-hmm.
How has it been with your family, and when have you actually had to create boundaries or just say, this is the way I am, this is the way I'm
Mm-hmm.
living? Did anything like that happen for you where you had to actually have a conversation with him?
Yeah, I've definitely had some of those kind of harder conversations with my family. I've obviously divulged some of the details to you that I won't go into on this specifically. But the transition of going from a single guy to married was a big friction point with my family, as well as throw in the fact that I now have a very demanding job. That was very tough for my family
Yeah.
to see that brash of a transition, because I'm now working 50, 60-hour weeks, which isn't a lot in a lot of folks' terms. It's a lot if you're working trying to work a 40-hour week job. So it was okay. I'm going to work 40 to 50 hours a week committed to Augusta, and then every other hour I should prioritize my wife. And that created friction points with my family, that all of a sudden they didn't see me anymore, and it seemed like I had changed and this, that, and the other. And it was just my priorities had changed. I now my priority is my wife and my marriage. Secondary to that is going to be my job, because I'm trying to build a career for myself. I'm trying to provide for my wife and our future family, if that's the plan for us and what God has for us. So that was tough, and there were some conversations where I did sit down with my parents and just kind of explain, hey, this is where I'm at, and I love you guys to the moon and back, and I'd do anything for my family, but I'm not going to respond to every text. I might not show up to every event. I have a bunch of nieces and nephews. There's an event every week, every
No
weekend,
kidding. Yes.
and it's great. And I'm so thankful that I have a supportive family. And there are other people out there that would kill to have supportive families. But there comes a point where I have to prioritize my marriage, my career, and I might not attend every T-ball game. I might not be at every birthday party. But I still love my family. I'm going to see them and show them that I'm going to support them in any way they need. And so I did have to have some of those tough conversations, if you will.
You were the baby, you were the caboose,
Yes.
and so you were the little guy, and that they always took care of. So what have your sisters thought of you becoming this very confident, bold, I know where I stand kind of guy? Has that been a little annoying for them?
I wouldn't say annoying. I think really it was definitely a quick turn due to the career, the intensity of my career and how much I cared about my career and my marriage. When you put those two things together, one life change will cause ripples. Two at the same time will cause a lot of waves. And I think it was not that I had changed, my schedule had changed. And this is one thing I distinctly remember telling to you while I was kind of processing some of this in the moment. I said, nothing about me has changed in terms of how I treat my family. A lot has changed about how I communicate and my confidence and what I do with my day-to-day. The biggest change that my family saw was that I wasn't around. That's what they saw. And so that can be taken as, oh, well, you don't care as much, or you're not supportive as much. And this is not me speaking about my family by any means. Just objectively, if you're not around as much, people will start to draw assumptions about why you're not around. And the reason I wasn't around is because I was prioritizing my marriage and my career. And for my sisters, I think that was a drastic change, because I lived in my parents' house till I was 20. So my sisters are having kids and coming over for dinner and birthdays, and you name it. And guess what? I was there.
Right.
Because I just lived at my parents' house until I was 20. But all of a sudden, I moved out of the house, I'm married, I have a career, I'm just not around anymore. And that has certain optics to it.
Yeah. A big transition for you with a blending of a whole bunch of roles, which has been difficult, has been finishing up, helping at the Bellingham shop with their new general manager, as well as being a coach for the franchisees, as well as doing sales, and there's probably more that I'm not thinking of. But that has been extremely overwhelming for you, and it comes to a point where, what do you want me to focus on? And if I'm going to do sales, I need to do sales, and we need to get these other things off my plate.
Yeah.
So that was another transition. We brought in Nick to be our manager, success manager for the franchisees, and that's been a huge blessing. All the time that you could have spent on the coaching program and made it incredible, he's been able to take off your plate and run with it solely and do it well.
Yeah.
And you've been able to now focus on sales, and we've put a lot of things in place you might have to make it better, and it's going really well right now.
Yeah.
This morning, and over the past few days, it's come to light to some of the employees kind of what Mike is wanting in the future.
Yes.
And changes within the organization as a whole for all the businesses. And can you tell me a little bit about like how that's laid out and the transition that he's wanting for all of us?
Yeah, so a little bit about it, and I haven't talked to Mike directly, so obviously I am shooting from the hip here, but he recently watched a piece of Alex Hormozy content and realized that he could no longer be a manager. And to some people that might sound harsh, that might sound like he's abandoning his team. By no means. But what Mike has always said to business owners, to managers, you name it, is what got you from 0 to 100,000 won't get you from 100,000 to a million. And what got you from 100,000 to a million won't get you from 1 million to 10 million.
Yeah.
And now he's at this place where whatever the number is, you can take a guess if you want, he has hit a certain number and he goes, okay, now if we're going to take Augusta, Copilot, all of these businesses that he has to the next level, he has to start changing how he's operating.
Yeah.
And that means he can't be necessarily a direct manager. And direct managers, in my opinion, there is an element when you are a manager or an owner of a business that you accept reactivity. And when you want to scale your business to the size Mike does, you have to start reducing elements of reactivity. That is one-off meetings, one-off messages, one-offs this, that, and the other, and really structure your time for the greater good, right? It's sacrificing little moments with individuals like you and I, and realizing that the time could be spent helping the greater good.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the transition that he's taking. We typically have a standing weekly meeting with Mike that he will no longer be attending. And that's totally fine because he realizes his time in that weekly meeting, albeit great for us, might not be the best benefit for the whole. And so that's a transition he's making as no longer being a manager of his businesses, but more of an entrepreneur visionary for his business.
Yeah, that's great to put it in a nutshell. And then there'll be a lot of meetings about that coming up, but it's another transition for us.
Yes.
Always a wild amount of emotion when he says what he wants, and him not managing anything means that there's a lot of other managers that are then answerable to him. So the futures are very exciting. We have a 10-year plan, and so we gotta prepare, and we gotta get moving for the 10-year plan. So it's very exciting to us.
Yes.
So just to wrap up, I'd like to talk a little bit about your current role that in the next 2 weeks you'll be switching to. That is a complete life transition. Your life will never be the same after this. And the thought process that goes through somebody's head when they have a career that they've been giving 110% to, and their wife supports them, but now they have this little tiny thing coming into their life. How does somebody like wrap their head around that and think about still prioritizing their family when there's going to be no sleep and you need to be there more?
Yeah, so I know I haven't said it on like the C-suite or anything, but my wife and I are gonna have a baby here very soon.
Yay.
So we're very excited, very pumped, and that's gonna change a lot. It's also coming at the exact same time as a career change, right?
Yes.
I'm no longer doing coaching inside of Augusta. I will no longer be supporting any of Mike's corporately owned locations. I will be strictly sales. So I guess I don't remember the question specifically, but there's just a lot going on, and I think it's really focusing on what are my goals, and that's what are the goals with my wife, and as we have our first child, and then what are the goals that Mike and I have set for sales, and figuring out, where my time is best spent with both of those goals. I don't think there's anything wrong with setting goals with your life partner or your spouse. And it's not to say you need to have sit-down boardroom meetings,
right,
but you should, express, hey, this is a goal we have. Like, what do we expect when this baby comes? Is it going to be that we spend X days together, or we're doing X trips to the grocery store, or whatever it is, or X visits to in-laws and family? Who knows? But you should sit down and set those goals and expectations to make sure that transition is successful. Same thing moving into a sales role, like Mike and I have goals, we have expectations, and we're going to sit down and figure out how to make those successful. So I don't know if that answers the question,
it does,
but that's kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah, because you're taking on this other huge responsibility, and now you're going to be a dad. And what do I have to change in myself to refocus to be a dad? I didn't have to think about any of that before. Maybe I wasn't planning to have a kid yet, but okay, I'm thrilled it's happening. But now I got to pivot maybe faster than I would, and that's very stressful for a lot of people with the expense and everything that comes with having a baby. And just some people it does affect more than others. But now I'm going to be this parent. So, like your 5-10-year goals, is it very difficult for you to place your finger on anything because you're in a company that's so rapidly changing? Do you just set goals with you and your wife where you want to be for like a certain income, a certain, like, we're gonna own homes, we're gonna do real estate, that kind of thing, and you set your personal goals with her, and then you try to align with this growing business, or have you and her decided this is very transitional, this is very
Yeah.
fluid, and you're just gonna go along for the ride, and as each transition comes, you guys just roll with it, or there's some firm decisions and goals that you've been able to make?
Yeah, I think we're very much the former. We are very fluid. And I think that's good. That's something we found in our marriage. I think early in our marriage, I was very rigid. I wanted to have maybe more structure, maybe more hard and fast goals, like we're going to make this, we're going to save this, whatever. And we've really tried to adapt more of a flexible lifestyle, which is good. It creates a lot less stress. You know, Alex Hormozi has a quote, deficits occur when you speak your desires. And so that, yeah, and that could be, I desire a really nice dinner tonight, right? Well, what if I have to work late and now I can't go to the grocery store and get that really nice cut of meat? Now I'm going to be sad, right? Because I spoke my desires.
Yes.
And so my wife and I, when we speak our desires, we are very clear about what those desires are. So if you were to ask, you know, it'd be interesting to ask my wife and I, you know, in separate rooms, privately, you know, what do you currently desire with the baby? I think we'd both come to the same conclusion, like, we want the baby to be healthy, and we want to spend as much time as we can with each other and our baby.
Yeah.
Like, and that's kind of period.
Right.
And I think it's the same with like financial goals and this, that, and the other. I love working for Mike Andes. I love working with you and the team that he's put together. And I think I'm just along for the ride. And what I do is I worry about myself. And by that, I mean, I'm just going to show up to work every day and I'm going to produce results. And that's it, period. And if Mike's going to reward me for that, fantastic. And if he isn't, well, then I'll have a conversation with him. But I'm just going to focus on producing the results that are expected of me and being along for the ride. I've never, you know, asked Mike for a raise. I've never asked for a promotion or a title or anything like that. I have just been told these are the results I expect, and I produce those results, and that's what I'm going to continue to do. And I think working for someone like Mike is who takes care of his employees. I will be rewarded for that. And if financial time sitter, he can't reward me, I'll understand and we'll have a conversation. So specifically with my wife, we don't really have a lot of financial goals. We want to have fun. We want to raise our kids the way that we see fit, to be good people, to love Jesus, and to help others. That's really what we're focused on right now.
Well, that is a great thing to end on today. What Lee just said really would be something that any employee should focus on. That's the same focus I've had, and it has been successful for us. And I hope that helps business owners as well. There's going to be a ton of transitions. They're not going to be easy. I'm not going to say go with the flow, but if you're creating something from scratch and you want to go big, you're going to have to be pretty, I don't know what the word would be, flexible. Yeah, for sure. So I hope that helps somebody a little bit. I hope you have an incredible day, and thank you, Lee, for your time.
Thank you very much. Perfect. We can keep going if you want. I mean,
no, that's good.
Okay.
I got it all. We talked pretty fast.
Sorry, I go kind of quick. I'm not good at.
Oh, I like it. I like it. We've all become